Howdy folks, Keywii here, and welcome back to Analogue, a hate story. Safe space in which to be awesome, where we are going through some shit, specifically so we can learn some stuff, or something, I don't know. I think we read this one. Let's double check here. For the past 2 months, ever since it became impossible to hide, she was a child. Jamie, fiction, let's see here. Husband cares about me, cares for me, almost, but not really. I think I read that, yeah. You didn't even care about any of these fucking messages. Okay, so, let's see here. Oh, okay. Maybe I had not, and I just actually looked at it. Well, then I guess I will actually read it. I don't know. For the past 2 months, ever since it became impossible to hide that she was with child, Jamie has been living in our house, and no visitors have been allowed to come in. It has created an incredibly awkward state of affairs. I can hardly stand to be in the same room with that courtesan, let alone live with her. Until recently, so few words have been exchanged. I did not even know her name until the 3rd week of her living here. My husband made me agree to go along with the fiction that the child was actually mine. Oh yeah, I did read this, okay. Uncle Daiho. Daiho! Look, I'm sorry about our last conversation, alright? It's like I said to you before, you just caught me at a really bad time. Sojin was kept in bed rest on strict doctor's orders. I'm sorry that you brought your wife all the way to get turned away like that. When I told Sojin that you had given her well wishes on her pregnancy, she was happy, but sad she couldn't see you herself. Our child was born last week, a daughter. We decided to name her Minhai. Mika Heidi Ho. And Sojin is recovering well. The doctor said that it would be fine for her to see visitors. Next week. I'm sorry I got angry. It's your wife. If your wife still wants to see mine or the child or my mother, by all means, you're welcome to visit. I really hope there's no hard feelings, Uncle. Saying mean. Okay. Well, you are grayed out, so nothing to say there. I will show you this one though, since you seem to care about it. To the wife of Saint-Q. You can probably put this more diplomatically than I can, because I'm pretty sure younger brother is still thoroughly pissed off at me. Why do people use these honorifics? Like, why don't they just fucking refer to each other by name? Like, I was gonna say, like, normal humans, but that's sort of a Western thing, I assume. I don't know. That's normal humans for where I come from. You know how he is. Of course, I don't have the time to deal with that, especially when I'm already doing him a huge favor. The bad news is, I made an appeal to the captain and Emperor himself personally, but he said there was no position that a man of Saint-Q's skill set could possibly fulfill. I did most certainly plead, but let's face it, what official role could that man possibly fill? He's an idiot. Don't pass on that last part, he already knows. I did, however, speak to the Park's son, and he was able to convince him to forget the whole incident. It wasn't cheap, I might add. Money talks, as much as my mouth. I'll continue to send your family a regular... I thought that said shape, but that's a stipend. And please keep your husband under control. I can't afford to keep cleaning up after his damn fights. Alright, what do you say, Hanyai? What sort of thing do you have to say? Oh, yeah, I'm not really sure what all that business is about, truthfully. From what I understand, though, Smith Sang-Q had a tendency to get in trouble. He sounds really unpleasant. I mean, that's what I'm gathering, I guess. Yeah, I read that one. Okay. Oh, Sojin. Why do you only ever say it that way? Let's see here. My husband was out of the house, as he usually is during the day. So our servant fetched me instead to tell me that someone was at the door. I was in the middle of a conversation with Mute, but had no idea how I was expected to respond to that. What do? I asked her. She just responded in that usual crass manner of hers. Gee, I don't know, you could try answering the door maybe? Just a thought, of course. So I excused her and went to do that, but with a great degree of nervousness. I had never done this before. At the door was my youngest brother-in-law, Sang-Yun, who I had only met a few times before. Although husband mentioned him often enough, usually in the same breath as calling him an irresponsible drunk, seeing him did nothing short of compound my anxieties. Hello, sir, I stammered. Sojin! Don't know why I give you that accent. He responds with unbelievable volume. It's great to see you again. Hope you don't mind me dropping by unannounced. I just figured I haven't seen my new niece yet. And it's been forever since I've been in the old house, so, well, I thought I'd stop by, say hello to your daughter. I don't know. Sorry, my husband isn't home right now. Maybe you should come back later, I said, shifting uncomfortably. Oh, please be a good girl. Let me come see her. I'm really not here for your husband. This was awkward. I didn't exactly want to turn away my brother-in-law, especially if he just wanted to see baby Minhee. But this was hardly proper. It wouldn't really be my place. Sorry, you'll have to wait until my husband gets back. I trailed off. He rolls his eyes, then smiled at me. Really? Come on now. You're a smarter woman than that, he said, and put his hand on my shoulder. This had now moved on to incredibly uncomfortable. You really value his authority that much? He's my husband, I responded. What else could I say? He replied, wow, no wonder he walks all over you. If that's how you treat him, you have got to learn a lot about dealing with men, dear Sojin, especially my brother, but come on now, this is a bad conversation for a doorway. Can't I see my niece? I hear she's rather adorable. I took a deep breath. I'm sorry, I said, trying to be as bold as I could. I'm going to have to go now. Sorry. I started to close the door on him. Alright, I understand. I'll talk to him myself. Later. Don't worry, I won't mention this visit. Did you say hello to her mother for me? Oh, yeah, right. So I'm just like, wouldn't that be her? But no, that's the whole thing is that it isn't. Though, he said and left. My heart nearly skipped a beat when he said those words. I stood there in the doorway for a good while, stunned. Even now, I still haven't, much to think about. Not simply his knowledge of our child's true mother, a matter of great secrecy, but also of what he said about my husband. Perhaps his words were true. Alright, I understand. I'll talk to him later. Don't worry, I won't mention this visit. Oh, I mean, I guess. Hey, what do you have to say, my friend? I'm really sorry. Please don't get mad, but I don't really understand what you're looking for. Maybe I'm not just getting it. Maybe I'm just not getting it, and it's my fault. But I can't find anything that seems relevant. Sorry. I mean, you know, it's blue. It's not grayed out, so I figure I'd show you. What am I at here? A clerk. I'm looking at a clerk. And a pack of idiots. Okay, let's take a look at this clerk. After this, I'm going to go back to mute and then show her block 3. Nobody's blinking. Now I've been a clerk for a while, and it's not as if I haven't heard all the stories about High Magistrate Smith Sang-min and his legendary temper, but I always figured they were an exaggeration, especially after I met him for the first time. The man seemed like an absolute model of a gentleman. You know, not 3D, not three-dimensional at all, just a cardboard cutout of what a human should be with a singular emotion and personality. The man seemed like an absolute model of a gentleman, and rather calm and unemotional. Oh, both of those things. I'm not criticizing him. I just never imagined that man getting angry. It was while an official was presenting the facts of a murder case to him, a drunken brawl, beaten peasants gone horribly wrong. It all seemed satisfactory enough. A dozen men had seen it. There wasn't really any doubt about it. So far, so good. Very well, the magistrate said. Let me read the confession, then, before I pass a sentence. The official didn't have one, which is reasonable enough. A lot of times, they can't get it out of them. And I've never seen a magistrate who is really all too concerned about those little details. Excuse me? You don't have a confession? He said, and his mood soared right there. Why are you wasting my time, then? He looked at the accused, who had been, kotoing? I don't fucking know what that word means. Silently up until that point. You! Do you even admit to killing him? The murderer seemed confused, and it took a minute to realize he was being addressed. Furthermore, when he did figure it out, he simply kept mumbling, not my fault, wasn't my fault, and the such. The High Magistrate was furious. What is wrong with you? What is this man doing in front of me in a state like that? He doesn't admit to doing it. What do you expect me to do? He demanded. After some silence from the official, he continued. It wasn't a rhetorical question. Please enlighten me. What do you expect me to do? To punish him? The official. Whoa, I didn't know I could scroll that way. Okay. To punish him, the official finally offered, weakly, as confused about the matter as I was. Punish him? I don't know where this fucking voice is going, but I'm digging it. This is what set him completely off the edge. He stood up, shouting, We are not given the responsibility of punishment. What are we, barbarians looking for vengeance? The point of justice is to teach more men like him the error of their ways, he lectured, shouting at the top of his lungs. And how do you expect to do that with a man who won't even admit his own actions? Does this man look like he's ready to learn? Do you seriously believe that? Are you simple? The official looked as though he was about to argue, but then thought against it. Smart move. The High Magistrate continued, more calmly. Now stop wasting my time and get out of my office. Come back when you have a confession and a clue as to what your job actually entails. And with that, he left, leaving the official speechless and leaving me realizing that perhaps a legendary temper and being a model gentleman weren't quite so mutually exclusive as I had thought. Yeah, maybe you should read up on human nature a little. Oh, that was... I'm sorry, don't get mad. Yeah. I know you don't understand, but the thing is blue. You might have something to say. As horrible as it is to say, I don't think anyone was really surprised when brother-in-law Sang Yun was found dead. Nobody asked how, nor has anyone so much as mentioned the word drinking in my presence since the ordinarily extremely candid Mute had been entirely somber. Mother-in-law, I understand why she's been taking it so hard and have been working hard to stay well out of her way while the funeral preparations are being settled, but Mute? I had no idea they were so close, yet in our last conversation I could have sworn she was on the verge of tears. I had never seen such a reaction from her in all my time here. As for myself, I have an awful confession I can make to no one. Okay, cool. I've put on a somber face, acting as though I'm not sad as the rest, since that is, of course, what is expected, but it pains me to admit that I'm not. It is not as if I don't find it tragic, and I feel bad for thinking this. I didn't know him at all. How could I possibly bring myself to feel as upset as I'm expected to be? A good point, I guess. Go back to this. It seems, for the time being, we have concluded our conversation. Oh, no, go back. Stop that. Lock successfully decrypted. Okay. Excuse me. Enable _ AI mute. There we go. Let's see what you have to say about the following. Let's go back to access these log documents. Oh, shit, you have much to say. Well, you've seen most everything about the Smith family now, except the most scandalous stuff. I'm sort of wondering what you think of their fall. Shouldn't have happened. I mean, I don't genuinely know. I don't know, just fucking... I barely pay attention. Shouldn't have happened, I guess? Yeah, I know, but after Sang Chun died, well, with him gone, it's no surprise things fell apart. Anyway, regardless of whether you think it should have happened or not, it was a pretty terrible thing to happen to what used to be the greatest noble family. And certainly they didn't deserve to be first brought down by the Kim family, then murdered by the Kim daughter. Maybe it's... I don't want to say that Sang Yun was lucky. That's not true. If he was around, maybe things would have turned out better. He always had a way of making things perfect. Still, I'd rather he be killed by his own habit than by that girl. He deserved better than he got, but it would have been even worse if not for that. Is I guess what I'm saying. I hadn't really thought about it that way before. Really, were he around? That's totally what he'd say. Practically imagine his voice even. I don't know. The drink will inevitably kill you. The woman will inevitably kill you. So I'd rather take the one that isn't always bitter. Or something like that. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's enough of that. So... I'm curious what you have to say on each log file, as I didn't get your opinion on them. Hey! That's actually from before I knew her. It's pretty hard to imagine her as a blushing newlywed, honestly. She was an awfully good friend of mine. We chatted a lot. And I mean, don't get me wrong, she did a lot of things that were really wrong and really gross. I don't condone them, and I definitely don't understand it. Not that it could be cheating or anything. It's not like you can have love with just women, but still gross. But please, look past all that. Like, yes, she was a bad wife, but you have to understand, it wasn't her fault. It's like what I reported to my mistress. Ryu Shaiya, none of the problems in her marriage were her own fault. She was just the wife of a lousy man, plain and simple. Mostly she tried to do the best she could. She was a really great woman, so please don't look down on her, okay? I mean, I don't, for the most part. Or do you not have anything to say specifically here? Oh, okay, this is the, alright. I can't back out. Alright, well, that's the same conversation. So if it is grayed out, then absolutely I don't have to read it. Well, this is what I told him at the time. I could have maybe, you know, done without the description of her breasts. But that kind of story was definitely pretty common for him, the part where he cleaned up after his family's mess. I mean, not the details about immoral-looking common women. And, well, the drinking, too. But look, that part he had good cause for. Sure, it was his ruin, but you can't blame him for that. I mean, the stuff he had to put up with. If you had it like that, I'm sure you'd do the same. It wasn't all bad, really. He'd spend a lot of evenings drinking together. We'd spend a lot of evenings drinking together, talking long into the night. Well, he would anyway. Obviously not really so much drinking on my part. But he was the kind of man who'd still pour a glass for you all the same. So that whole sarcastic thing about him being a proper gentleman, it's not sarcastic. He really was. Well, he was being sarcastic, but still. He totally, absolutely was the best damn gentleman around. Yeah, this is very interesting. I like her, you know, forego into this. Yeah, this is where I started the episode on. High Magistrate Smith Sang-min, huh? Well, as High Magistrate, he was one of the highest-ranking officials until just before the end. I don't want to paint a misleading portrait. As I understand, he was a very just man and performed his function quite well. It was politics that caught up to him in the end. It's like I reported to my mistress, Ryu Jahai. Hya. Fucking, I can't say these names and I'm a bad human. He might have been a good magistrate, but his family conduct was less than the pinnacle of virtue. How many wives a man takes is no business but his own. And he never did anything illegal, but knocking up courtesans owned by the court? Man, that's just bad politics. And, well, you saw what that kind of neglect did. It forced his wife to seek comfort wherever she could find it. So that's why he lost his position. Years of embarrassment in the family finally culminated in him turning into a real liability for the emperor. But it wasn't always like that. Yeah, let me try and paint an even portrait of him for you. I added an assortment of logs about him. I hope this gives a good idea of what I mean. Ooh, nice. But first, I'm going to continue doing this. The wife of Senkyu. I know it sounds like Sang-min is just being harsh on her little brother, but I assure you, his characterization of him isn't wrong. Did I say her? Weird. I honestly kind of tended to avoid him. I was friends with his older brother's wife, and his younger brother was an absolute gentleman, but he was not a very nice man. He was the sort of person that the court exams were supposed to keep out in theory. Didn't work, of course. He studied just as well as his brothers, or so Sang-kyun told me. Here, you want to see the usual sort of behavior you'd get from the Smith Sang-kyu? I've added another entry. This one by the Kim son. Now, out of curiosity, is there anything new in Block 3? There is not. So, I think it was here. Here we are. Man, reading that. Can't believe that's her. She used to be so timid. Thinking of me as having a shocking, crass manner, or being afraid of her brother-in-law at the door? Well, it's all what I expected from her at the time. She just changed a whole lot as she got older. Well, honestly, maybe not as much as I thought. Excuse me very much. She might have gotten bolder behind her husband's back, but in front of him, that never really changed much. Well, what do you think? Should she have listened to Sang-kyun about being less differential to her husband? What does differential mean? Should she have listened to him about being less differential to her husband? I mean, in this particular situation, I'd say no, because I'm pretty sure he was just trying to see the niece and then, you know, sleep with her. But, I mean, I'm gonna say no there. Yeah, I figure you're right. Good for her that she didn't. Having a bad man for a husband, well, that's hardly an excuse. Either way, well, she did change in some ways. In some ways, not for the better, as you've seen with her relationship with that whore. Still not in agreement with you on that one. That's why it amazes me so much, rereading something that old and knowing that she would later sink to. Ah, well. Also, I'm getting, I am over time, but I am getting close to the end of Block 3, so... A clerk. Now I'm on a clerk. There we go. Legendary temper. And then drank himself to death is the last one. Okay, let's see what we got here. What do you got, Mute? See, he wasn't that bad. It was an embarrassment and far from a pinnacle of virtue. I didn't think that highly of him, but at the end of the day, it was about politics, not about his character. Fair enough. Alright, and finally, Oh Sojin. Drank himself to death. Look, I don't want to talk about it, okay? It's personal. I'm sorry. You know what? Cool. Alright, but that'll have to be it for this one. So thank you guys so much for watching. I, of course, have been Keywii, you've been great too, and you have yourself a delightful day. Oh my god. Block 4? Is it filled? It's got some shit going on. I'll start with a pack of idiots, since I probably need to reread it. But that'll have to be it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I, of course, have been Keywii, you've been great too, and you have yourself a delightful day. And goodbye!